Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCourcy and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCourcy here with Ben Edwards, who will be sitting in for Matt Watson today. Hi, Ben.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm glad you could make it in today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you. So, Ben is the founder and CEO of Swappa. That is SWAPPA, an online marketplace, which we're going to talk about amongst other online marketplaces. So, what's up, Ben?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you coming in. I like this topic, the online marketplace. And how do we call the online marketplace? Well, I think first what we can go ahead and do is get your take on it and what you guys do at Swappa.
Sure. So Swappa is what I call a person-to-person marketplace for consumer tech. And so the consumer tech part covers smartphones, iPhones, MacBooks, laptops, video games, that sort of thing.
Okay.
The person-to-person part means we help connect our users to act as both buyer and seller, and we help facilitate the sale. So we're not middlemen. We don't buy and sell from them. We help make it safe and easy to buy and sell with each other.
Okay. So, and as far as like online marketplaces go, I mean, since the internet came out, the online marketplace has been prevalent. And you guys, you told me you guys came out in 2010.
That's right.
Which makes you almost an internet dinosaur.
I can.
In some ways. I mean, I look back at, so I shared with you before, I'll go back again. So, you know, my original history with e-commerce and just, I mean, I don't want to say the internet, but like really when I started as an entrepreneur, I owned a ticket business and we bought and sold tickets, and you know, there was a lot of different marketplaces in which that occurred. eBay was the very first one, and there's, you know, you even mentioned prior that there's some similarities between, you know, like that's kind of an easy way to explain.
Sure, yeah.
But you guys don't sell doll houses.
No, we don't think that the best way to buy and sell consumer electronics would be on the same place that you buy
dollhouse,
baby clothes, and sell furniture and that sort of thing.
And there's definitely something to be said about having a specialty or something that you deal with in general. So now you guys are local here to Kansas City.
Started here. It's I live here. Our team's actually distributed all across the country or all across the world. We've got a handful of international folks as well. But
well, the internet never closes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, you know, and I mentioned I find this topic to be near and dear to my own heart because, you know, that's where, you know, and just to say it quickly, I mean, here I'm starting. I wrote a whole book about it. $1 Million Bedroom is all about our foray into online marketplaces, and I'll go ahead and I'm gonna lead early here. I like to always tell stories about things we didn't do well because I think they're fun and entertaining.
Got a long list.
So yeah, and most entrepreneurs do. But I look back at, so we started this business in the extra bedroom of my home, started kind of buying and selling tickets. Next thing you know, we're doing millions and millions of dollars in revenue each year, and one of the components of that was you know, we had affiliate sites. Basically, we had a bunch of sites that people would use as marketplaces for buying and selling tickets. We used plug-in technology to do that. So part of how we were promoting that and part of how we got started with our office in the Philippines, which is now the office of Full Scale, was posting links and ads. You know, it'd be like Taylor Swift Indianapolis tickets, and you post them on these different sites, and people that are either in the marketplace would find them or they would be found on Google. So with that, as we became more aggressive with our posting, we would often be excluded from the marketplace, which is a nice way to say it, which basically means we got kicked out.
Sure. Yeah.
Ghosted, banned, whatever you want to call it. So at one point I got tired of that. I said, you know what? I don't need these marketplaces anymore. I'm going to build my own.
All right.
So taking a hybrid approach from the things like eBay, Craigslist, Backpage, whomever. We built our own online marketplace, and it was nice, and it worked well, except for I had one problem.
What was that problem?
There was no one in it.
Oh, okay.
So I had an empty marketplace.
That's the hardest.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's a great place to start, because I often refer to this to people that have startup ideas and other things in hand, and they say, well, I say, okay, so you're wanting to build an online marketplace for XYZ. But the problem you're going to have right away is when no one's in a marketplace, people don't stop by, they don't take time to list, they don't shop, they don't do anything. Did you have the same problem when Swappa started?
Oh yeah, definitely. So initially Swappa started as a marketplace specifically for smartphones, and even specifically for Android phones. And so kind of if I can get into the background of
do it.
My background's in software, and so back in 2010 I was trying to get into app development, and basically I long-time Java programmer, was getting into Android development. I needed a cache of phones for development and testing purposes. And buying them used was buying them new was cost prohibitive. So I thought I could save some money buying used, and so hit up the standard marketplaces at the time, which were eBay and Craigslist. Both kind of had the sense of when you're searching for the stuff I was looking for, like kind of virtual junkyards. And so basically I ran into all sorts of problems from just inefficiencies in search and poor communication and that sort of thing, to outright fraud. And so eBay didn't work too well, but I was able to find lots of the phones I needed on Craigslist, but it was just a constant battle of people misrepresenting things. And so finally...
and a lot of back and forth, just like
is
25
awful.
Messages to have one that meant something.
Yeah, and you show up and people aren't there, all sorts of things. But the final straw was, so I was meeting a Craigslist seller in a dark parking lot after hours, because that's how you're supposed to do it. And so show up, but it seemed a safe situation. I was able to handle the phone, turn it on and make sure it was working. I was buying an old Motorola Droid. Everything looked good, so I paid the seller a couple $100. We both get in our car at the same time and leave, and end up a block away at the same stoplight. And so I just kind of look over at him and notice he's looking over at me nervously, which doesn't make any sense to me. He finally can't take it anymore. He slams on the gas, runs through a red light, runs through another red light to peel out onto the highway and make this fast getaway.
Wow.
I'm kind of baffled that, at this point realized I'd probably been duped somehow. I get home and try to activate the phone, I think with Verizon, and turns out it was blacklisted. So even though the technology seems fully functional, the phone wasn't able to connect to the network, so it was not a very smart phone. So I got ripped off yet again, and that was my motivation to finally start Swappa. So instead of getting into app development, I switched to developing Swappa, and so that's kind of how it started. I was sick of getting ripped off.
That's the similar. You look at and obviously the thing that I had the most experience with over the last decade were online marketplaces where tickets are exchanged, and they've had that same issue.
Oh, I can imagine.
Big time. And that was one of the things. So when StubHub, when I first started selling in 2009, StubHub was nothing like it was now. It wasn't the name brand. StubHub was originally a site called Liquid Tickets, and eBay bought the marketplace, and man, we saw that the evolution change. Now some of the things they do, you talk about getting ripped off. So one of the things with tickets, especially as they turned electronic, was they're scanning these barcodes at the gate.
Yeah.
And because once something's already scanned in, you're not getting in with the second one. So, that's a common form of fraud. And now, like last night for the Royals game, I had tickets and I couldn't go, so I was able to enter my barcodes.
I got you.
And StubHub facilitates the transaction of validating that those are, and then they reissue them through the ticket they deliver to the buyer. It's not only efficient for the buyer, it's also efficient for the seller. Because while you talk about as a buyer getting hosed, well, you can, as a seller, you can get hosed too. And if you're doing a cash transaction, that's a lot harder to do. But when one of the things with the ticket company that was always a challenge was, over the years of credit card processing in different ways that we did business, well, if you're making an online transaction, you're not collecting a signature, which means if the buyer wants to file a chargeback, well, you're going to pretty much lose every time, because they're going to say my card wasn't present, it was fraud, I wasn't the one that bought it. And there was instances where we literally talked to the people, like the email we delivered the tickets to would be like John Smith at their company domain, and you could look them up online and say that's the guy, I sent him there, and they're saying to the credit card company, no.
Yeah, right.
I didn't get them, I never bought these, and you're looking at them and you're going, geez, this is fraud.
Oh yeah,
but the thing is the credit card companies, they don't care. They're processing this huge number of transactions and stuff like that. So, and then yes, on the flip side of things, buyers can get duped. Sure. And StubHub would have they don't talk about it too much because they don't want to encourage people to do it, but they would have, have some inside information where they have people, because there's the thing is they have people, some of these shows come out and they're in a year.
Yeah.
So you get these people that are just
sitting on those for.
Well, they're selling tickets for the same ones, over and over and over. And the thing is you get cashed out and you get paid once the delivery's made. So you could theoretically run off with huge amounts of money, and now they have protections against that stuff. But being able to ensure the quality of a transaction between a buyer and seller is really kind of the crux of any online marketplace. So okay, so back to the vacant marketplace and how it's but here's the thing is if you I think some people don't even realize they're running a marketplace when they're trying to build software.
I knew I was.
But I'm saying
I knew that was going to be the first of, after the first 100 problems, that was going to be the first one after launching. You literally, spent nights and weekends for months and months and months and months developing. And
how do I get people in there? Yeah,
and then and then you launched to crickets. Literally,
nobody
knows it exists. And so I started off by selling my cache of phones that I was accumulating to do app development. So I was the first seller on the marketplace. As far as getting users and stuff.
But that's still not enough.
Oh, not nearly enough. But it was, luckily the timing was good with, this back in 2010, iPhone was out, Android was out, of course, but that's when things were really.
Now, by the way, just to give you context, in 2010 or 2009, that was iPhone 2.
Yeah, no, right.
I mean, for context,
but Android,
because we think about 2009, we're 10 years ago. That wasn't that long ago. For mobile devices, it was.
Oh yeah.
I mean, maybe not as much for internet, but people. I talk to people that are getting into e-commerce and doing different things, and we thought in 2009 we thought the internet had become so sophisticated. Right. And it was absolutely the Wild West.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everything from SEO to all the other stuff.
Yeah.
It was just game on. And when I say game on, game the system on.
Yeah.
So okay, now let me verify that this is correct. You guys sold $90 million worth of transactions. Is that just last year, or is that total?
No, just last year. So
wow.
Over 90, I think it was $92 million worth of marketplace activity. And we're proud of the fact that the vast majority of that ends up in the pocket of our sellers. So.
That's awesome, man. So that listings, or is that sales?
That's sales.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So, and then back to that empty marketplace.
Oh, okay.
So now you're the only seller.
Right.
So, and by the way, I'm driving this point home because there's a lot of you listening that want to, whether you're creating an online marketplace that matches a seller of a service to a recipient, or just there's so many different things. And the marketplace can be really powerful. If you can build a good one that's efficient, it can really, really, really move mountains. And at the same time, so at some point, whether it was from the very beginning, did you determine that you're okay, we're only doing tech and phones and stuff like that? Or did you originally say, the world is mine, we can sell it all?
It was originally just specifically Android phones. silly and
that's not silly even. Though. Yeah.
Well, but
oh, you weren't even doing iPhones.
No, and that's the thing. And so the idea was like I was pretty plugged into the Android development community, and so that's where the first buyers and sellers came from. Was similar to me trying to get phones for development or testing, but also the pace of innovation for the handset sim was so fast. Like you would have new releases from the different manufacturers every few months, and they were technically far advanced from what had come out in previous months. That's not really the same anymore.
Yeah.
So the pace of innovation on the hardware and stuff was so fast that it really did make sense to. I mean, you did have people that were switching phones multiple times a year and stuff like that. And so I say we at the time, it was just me, went after kind of gadget junkies and Android junkies and stuff like that. And so it had a very receptive community.
But that's okay, and that's another point that I want to make is I think that sometimes people look at things and they say, oh wow, my total addressable market is the world.
Yeah, right.
Well, good luck, because you're not targeted. Like now you have to try to get them in it. Yeah, it's like you said, like trying to boil the ocean. So it's difficult. So all right, so here you are, and now you're trying to populate this marketplace. Like, what actually got some people in there? Because there's a few things that I've given people tips on in the past, and like sometimes I just tell people, I'm like, I don't really know how you're going to populate this marketplace, but you should probably expect to maybe give it away for free for a while.
Yeah, let's see. As far as giving it away for free, I did build in a sale fee at the beginning because I was insistent that if this thing was going to work, it had to make money. As far as I'm trying to remember all the things I did at the time to try to get users, but it was some just going into forums and saying, hey, people talking about buying and selling, and so going into forums and
which is free,
people about it, which is free, but not very scalable, but it helps at the beginning.
It's a good way to get started, though.
Yeah, and I focused a lot on SEO and search. It wasn't hard to find people who had bad experiences the same way I had, but it was very slow going. So while this was slow going, I think in the first full year of business, which would have been 2011, I think there was something like $500,000 worth of total marketplace activity.
Still not terrible.
Well, it wasn't much, but
but you got to give some perspective to that too, because like you were probably getting a small percentage.
Oh, like a single-digit percentage.
So at this point, was this a side hustle, or had you already gone in? Okay, no, so you're working as a developer somewhere else, running this.
Right. This was
on your evenings and weekends.
Nights and weekends.
And lunch hours, I'm sure. Never while working.
Yeah. Well,
else.
for a long period of time, I was setting the alarm. Yeah, that never happened, of course. But no, I for a long time I was setting the alarm at 5:00 in the morning so I could get up and get development time in.
Yeah.
But so that's the thing. So even when the marketplace was very slow going and there wasn't a lot of activity there, I was constantly coding and pushing stuff out there. So for better or worse, that's always kind of was always kind of the solution for me, because that's what I like doing. That's what I was good at. But
you were funding it all yourself.
Yeah,
was it mainly just your effort at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the costs were minimal. I can't remember. Yeah, I started on like Amazon Web Services and stuff, but they made it easy to get going and
sure.
And all that. So yeah, the costs weren't that great, and it was mainly just.
In a first year, to even get that kind of adoption, that's actually really good, I think. You gotta have realistic expectations about where you're starting, and it's that kind of that field of dreams analogy. Just because you build it doesn't mean they'll come.
Oh no, it doesn't.
And then other things too. It's like. So there's upsides to a niche nature of a marketplace, and then as an operator of it, there's downsides, because you look at something, and once again, we're going to go back to the StubHub analogy. Like, okay, so StubHub sells tickets, so they're in that niche, but they sell all kinds of tickets.
Right.
So like whether I'm wanting to take my kid to see JoJo Siwa, whether I want to see the Kansas City Royals or the Chiefs, or maybe I want to go to a Luke Bryan country concert somewhere else. I can go there, but now with phones and tech, you're in a different. Now, at the beginning, like you mentioned, people would switch phones. Now the hardware And you have a great point, because the hardware and the technology in phones has definitely slowed down.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on when did the iPhone 10 come out? It was almost 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I still have it, because my dad gave me one for Christmas 2 years ago, and I still use it. And I'll be honest with you, like, the thought of, man, maybe I should buy another phone.
Yeah,
I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Because for the $1,000,
yeah,
it's crazy. A phone's like the price of a laptop, and in a lot of cases more expensive.
Oh yeah.
But then again, it's a major tool for me when you came in today, and this will come out well after today. But today is the day that my third book came out,
Congrats.
and I was thanks. It only took 2 years to do this one. That was the different story behind that, but that's another thing too. Like, actually, I was making posts on my phone, and I was using it. I mean, it's like a tool of work, and it's important, but it's still that older technology caught up, so it makes it a little harder to sell. Like, because theoretically, if I was a customer on Swappa, and I sold my old phone back then, I don't have any new inventory to list on your site until I'm ready to get that new phone.
Right.
So has that impacted the marketplace dynamic?
As far as people holding onto their devices?
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, it definitely has.
Because even companies like Apple, and some of them are reporting like laggard sales and some of their hardware, because and I know you're like an Android guy, and sometimes they get cranky about Apple. I'm an Apple guy. I've always had an iPhone. I'm not going to change. But like, they make good hardware.
Oh yeah.
And it lasts, and so like, that's my point though, is like, and that's the problem they've created for themselves. So
it is, but it has affected us, but everybody needs a smartphone now. Like, back then they were, a bit of a luxury, or not every 12-year-old had one as well, and so now it's just everybody needs one, and people they're not more physically resilient. People drop them, they break, they. They are slightly, because my wife washed her old one. Yeah. And now the one she has is waterproof, and she dropped it in a toilet once, and it lived, and I could not have been happier. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. And so, so there's still a good reselling market for it. Oh, I'm sure there is, and I mean, and that's the thing too, is like, so the question is like, so basically the answer there was, well, maybe while the number of transactions per person might have lengthened out, the number of persons able to make transactions grew that. But I mean, if you think about it, like $90 million in transactions, what's the value of every piece of electronics that could be sold on there? You got a lot of growth potentially to still be in front of you. All right, so I want to go back to the security of the buyer and the seller, and you told this story about being ripped off. And by the way, I used to have to do that. I used to do that too with tickets. So sometimes we would have tickets to a local venue, and we had the actual hard tickets, like not electronic. And here I am 4 hours before the show, and it's local. Now, I never used to sell. I was never the guy that was like, buy and sell tickets, hold them up. But I would drive down to the venues and drop off tickets to guys like that. Oh, okay. And sometimes it was shady transactions. It felt like I was like, now I'm a big kid, so I was never as worried about it. But yeah, there was a couple times that I was like, oh man, I don't know if someone's handing you a big stack of cash something. You're like, I don't know how, I'm going to go ahead and get the frick out of here. So what are some of the things that you do to ensure the quality of the transaction, both for the buyer and the seller? Yeah, that's the real key here with Swappa. It is, and that's. And by the way, go to Swap, go to swappa.com, so you can now turn your listening to the podcast into an interactive experience. There you go. Buy a phone while you're there. Yeah, I guess kind of something that separates us from every other marketplace, and to try to ensure the integrity of these transactions, is we have a no junk policy, to where everything listed on the site has to be fully functional, and then we actually enforce it. And we do that. How do you enforce that? We have a listing review process that is performed by humans. So every single listing on the site has been reviewed and has to be approved by a member of our moderation staff before it ever becomes available for sale, before a buyer even sees it. And we do a couple of key things there. One is specifically for phones, but we still phones is still the most dominant category on Swappa by far. And so something we do is when a seller creates a listing for a phone, they have to provide us the serial number or the IMEI number for the phone. And we're able to use that to identify the phone, and we can check a global blacklist to ensure it's not reported lost or stolen.
Is that what gets a phone blacklisted, it being lost or stolen?
Yeah,
okay.
That's what will get it globally blacklisted. All the carriers, contribute to the same list.
Okay.
But we
that exists simply to deter people from stealing them.
Well, it doesn't. I don't know if it deters.
Well,
people
but
stealing,
I mean,
reduces
it could though, because if you just keep stealing phones and you're not able to sell them.
Yeah.
It'll deter you. I mean, you might just steal something different next time. But I mean, all right.
So that's one of the biggest things is we collect that serial number and we put it to use, and we can also use that to. A lot of times we'll be doing manual checks with the carriers to just ensure there's not any sort of activation issue, for the next potential buyer. We can also.
So some of that, and different cell phone carriers, they lock things. Certain types of phones are only good on Sprint or Verizon or whatever. And I would imagine on places like eBay that can be a problem. Because if you buy a phone and let's just, all right, if you're a Swappa listener, put your earmuffs on. Buyers are dumb. Well, I mean, and I don't want you to answer that. I'm going to just say it. So are sellers. Someone's like, hey, I've got a phone. Now, what you mentioned, on a lot of marketplaces, they'll identify a serial number, a model number, and I would imagine you guys probably have some preset specs and listings that you'll populate.
Well, no, we have. Well, that's the thing. We have. We've cataloged and databased everything and all the details of the phone. So it's when you come on the list.
But that doesn't stop someone that only has a Verizon account from buying a phone that's only good on Sprint, does it?
But we make it pretty hard or pretty easy to not do that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's my point.
Because the way we organize the site. But that's one thing, But if you're on,
but as buyers, we can be dumb. You're like, hey, I just want that cool new phone, and you're not paying attention. And if something, maybe I don't know how you guys do it, or something like, hey, before you complete this transaction, can you verify that you do have a Verizon account or something like that?
Right. But that's the thing. We separate the list, and so the site's product centric, as in you drill down to what you're going to buy, and then you see the listings, as opposed to most other marketplaces, which are freeform. So
meaning freeform, I search iPhone, and now I got 14,000 responses.
Yeah, and there's no and then
So you guys you do a walkthrough.
Yeah, and it's categorized and cataloged and by the detail, and that's serial number we've collected. We can actually identify most of the details of the phone to ensure it's properly classified and stuff like that. So we definitely do see some amount of that, I bought the wrong bottle, but it's so minimized compared to everywhere else.
It's amazing how little things, and I'm a big fan of just the walkthrough, whether it's onboarding for a site. First off, I'm a big advocate of that. I'm also the founder of Gigabook. It's an appointment booking site. And it's something that Full Scale owns now, but we had so many bells and whistles and so many options and so much customization. It actually our strength turned into our weakness. They held hands and just strolled down the street together. Yeah. And people, I love the customization, but where the frick do I find this? So we created a smart onboarding process, and it changed the game. It reduced our support inquiries by 90% the day we turned it on.
That's incredible. Yeah, and we are a victim of some of that too, because the details on these devices matter. For laptops and stuff too. But that's a big part of our challenge that we're constantly trying to do is make it easier. But for the people that really care about the details, and I'm looking for this specific model and stuff, we make that possible to find it.
Right.
Where it can be really hard on other sites.
So now, do you still specialize in Android? Did that
No. We still sell more phones by far than anything else, but it's more iPhones than anything.
So then you have American user base, if that's the case.
Yes.
Because that's one of the things that. All right, so in the United States, and you can verify this, we have iPhones half or more.
I think more.
Yeah. Now worldwide, no, not so much. Yeah. Why? Because they're expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you get other countries, like in the Philippines, one of the things. So you always look back at your business that you started and you're like, wow, I didn't really think that one out. So in the Philippines, Apple products are imports. So they cost 20% more.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's a pricey phone.
So yeah, so it is a pricey phone. It's also a pricey laptop, a pricey desktop. So, we actually, when we travel over there, bring stuff with us.
I gotcha.
Which is helpful. And, but as far as so being one of those Apple people, admittedly, I just I never really gave credence until I started building apps myself as to the importance of Android. Because remember when here in the United States when things first came out, and we're getting into this cross-compatible hybrid kind of world of web development, which can make things a little easier. Sure. But it's so you told me you guys have an app for Android, and you want to branch that out further.
Sure.
But with that, there was that time when they're like, well, we only have an iPhone app.
Yeah.
And I was like that guy. And then I realized if you want to have things global, Android's key.
It is. But
yeah. And quite honestly, Google is easier to deal with than Apple when it comes to submitting your apps and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, Apple, the App Store will kick your shit back all day. And you're like, come on, can you tell me why? And sometimes they don't. They give you a little bit of explanation, right. But Google's a lot more. Well, first off, they get it in their marketplace faster.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just a little easier to deal with.
It's way easier. We had an experience with just a pricing app where you could easily discover the price of your phone or any phone, the market value essentially for it. And oh man, yeah. So the iPhone app for it, got in and out of the marketplace with literally no code changes. They take it and then kick it out, and then we submit it again. They take it. And then kick it out for something different, and then it finally just stopped saying why they were.
Yeah, it's almost like they get tired with you, and they're like, nope, wrong.
Well,
would you just give me some insight? So
we're trying to.
And sometimes it's weird, goofy stuff too. And I mean, I'll just share some of that. So Mixtape the game, which we play when we have more than two guests here, we own part of Mixtape, and we're building a digital version of it. And in order to play Mixtape with your friends, you have to be able to share the app with your friends and make a connection. Yeah, and one of the things that's been a real frickin' headache is the Facebook part. Mm-hmm. So that's different than Apple, but being able to share it through different things and stuff like that. So, and that's an issue too with any kind of technology is all these things are proprietary, and they don't really theoretically have a requirement to communicate with other things. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you look back at Swappa, what's something that I shared my failure. By the way, those marketplaces that we built, they really were slick. They were just little classified sites. We built 7 of them, all the same basically, and tried to go after some different niches and stuff like that. We even populated the shit out of them with our own ads, stuff like that. Never could get them popping. Yeah. I mean, we turned them off. I mean, we just never, ever got them going to the point that they mattered. Couldn't get them to rank well in Google, kind of largely because they were new. Probably no one was linking to them. I don't know, man. But so what's something when you look back at Swappa, share it. Give us a nice tale of when you were the captain of the fail boat.
Oh God, I don't. There's so many.
And I want to key this again because I think it's important for people that are new startup founders to remember, look at the recurring thing. Everybody that comes on this show and talks to us about anything, all the successful people, and we're tell us where you failed. They're like, gee, I don't even know where to start.
No, and that's exactly
and that's the
where
thing.
I am.
It's normal. It's fully normal, and I think that's one of the things that I love. I love to continue to make that point because I run into people out in public and they come up. And by the way, thank you for everyone that continues to listen. And it's so humbling when people I don't know come up to me at an event and they're like, hey man, I listened to the podcast. I love it. And I'm like, hi, I'm Matt. And that means a lot. But the feedback we get is our listeners love knowing and feeling reassured that it's okay to fail.
Oh,
we've had people that own $1 billion companies in here. Yeah. And they're talking, oh wow, the list of fails is so long. So what do you got, man?
I don't have a big fail.
Give us a little one. Give us something, just an interesting one.
Well, I don't know if I think it's just a constant list of trying things that don't work. And,
right.
And the hard part is, sometimes they don't work because you don't give them enough time and attention. We get version 1 out there, so to speak, and then
sometimes you can ride them. Sometimes you can ride them too long.
Well, exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
That's always the tough part is determining when have I not left this in the oven long enough, or have I burnt it to a crisp?
Yeah,
and there's really it's other things too as you're getting started in any stage of your business is like, I don't know if I should do this valuation or whatever. You know what? You don't know if anything you're doing right now at your business is right or wrong until later.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all, and that's it. Like everything. And do you even need to classify it like that? I don't spend a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror at my business.
I don't
do you?
No, I don't, and that's why I'm having trouble coming up with something.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard. It's hard to go full speed ahead when you're staring in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. Well, here's something we can look back on. Like we've recently launched a new service called Swappa Local, and so it's trying to take. The easiest way to explain it is where Swappa is traditionally an eBay model. You're buying and selling with anybody across the country, and then the phone you buy from the seller in Toledo is shipped to you, or whatever. To where we're trying to bring the safety aspect, and that's what Swap has been pretty successful in establishing itself as a consumer brand.
It's harder when you put people face to face.
Yeah, it is. But so we're trying to take the safety aspect, which really starts with the kind of the no junk policy, and then the listing verification, and all that stuff, and bring that to an in-person transaction. And so we've launched in 9 cities so far, and we're making the service available. And so we'll be able to look back in a year and see if that was, we're excited because it opens us up to a new class of buyers and sellers. Sellers that don't want to ship.
Let's clarify why that's trickier. It's because as people we're remarkably unreliable.
Oh yeah.
We really are.
Oh, it's.
But it's not something you can control with your marketplace once. Right. That transaction becomes interpersonal.
Right, but we've tried to do a lot of things.
You can't make someone show up on time.
Structured, yeah.
You can't make someone be polite. You can't make someone seem trustable or cool or nice or give a shit. And that's the hard part. So how is that going so far?
We're just a month and a half in. So far, the signs have all been good. Now it's not on fire.
Overwhelmingly, people are good. I just mean in general, just like people and we look at things, this is shady or that's not. Overwhelmingly, I really do like to have faith in humanity. There's a small batch of people, and our media and other things likes to focus on that. So we're like, oh my God, the world's on fire. And there's a couple little fires here and there, and they get more of the attention. So and where do you find Swappa Local? Is that still at Swappa? Is that just a branch of Swappa.com?
Yeah, just swappa.com/local, and we're doing more to get it, more introduced and prominent on the site. But right now, it's only available to such a subset, or small subset of our users that.
So along the way, have you funded this all yourself, and has it funded itself, or have you brought in any venture capital? Or?
No venture capital.
Nice.
It's been kind of bootstrapped from the beginning and profitable all along.
Wait a minute. You own a software company that's profitable?
Yeah, well, but which is probably to our detriment.
It can be, isn't it? Wild?
Yeah, cause
it doesn't make any sense.
If we did try to raise money now, for more rapid expansion, or try to sell,
I don't know. A lot of people say, most I know that know say the best time to raise money is when you don't need it.
Yeah, and that's
which is weird. We've had some topics lately about venture capital and raising capital, and everyone thinks that they're going to do it, and everyone thinks that their valuation's X, and everyone thinks that they're going to get paid on date Y, and then guess what, folks? You're probably wrong.
Yeah.
It's a humbling process. It is very, it's like a meat grinder.
Yeah.
So if you've been able to avoid it, that's great. At the same time, sometimes you need it. It depends on where you want to go. It seems like you guys are doing doing great. Can I ask how many people participate in working with Swappa? You say you have a distributed workforce.
Oh yeah, how many people? We've got a team of about 30.
Okay.
20 are full time, and we've got about 10 part time that are primarily in the support moderation staff. But
okay.
Yeah, just a team of 30.
So what do you think as we kind of round out this episode, do you feel like the local marketplace is the next tier of growth for you guys?
I think so, and I hope so, because it leverages exactly what we do already, but it introduces us to a new class of buyer and seller, specifically for like the buyer that kind of need it now. If you've dropped your phone or lost your phone or ruined it, or for whatever reason, you need a lot of people need a new one now. They can't,
rather than waiting 3 days or however.
For it to be shipped, that sort of thing. Yeah. And so, and we see that at like Christmas time even.
And you're also competing with that now economy, because you have things like Amazon and other stuff that'll bring it the same day.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's really like that's the challenge of the modern e-com business is Amazon.
Every
I mean, and I guess what, like, I mean, technically, Amazon is an online marketplace.
Oh, yeah.
Because they own stuff now, but they don't need to. Amazon owns and sells their own product when and where they can see and realize a tidy profit.
Sure.
And that's one of the challenges, too, because I've definitely talked to people that, they're like, I was selling dog leashes. And then Amazon decided they wanted to sell dog leashes because, they get all the numbers, they get all the analytics, and they're like, these guys are making a pretty tidy profit here. Maybe we should sell dog leashes, and then you see Amazon's choice.
Yep.
And, but at the same time, much like a lot of other, so here in front of me in the studio, I've got a red and a gold money gun. They both say Supreme down the side. I bought both on Amazon. I'm certain that based on the price that I paid, those are not the authentic Supreme money gun. That was, because that's the thing is like I paid like $20 for these things. So theoretically that wasn't real. I mean, So, some of the things that Amazon's had issues with too is like at one point they have all these bins and things that they throw product in.
Sure.
So they were getting, you would send 10 boxed, well, let's just say Mixtape the Game. And so I've got, here it is, mixtapethegame.com. Let's just say that theoretically I sent 50 of these to Amazon, and they used to do this differently. They throw it in the bin, and then say someone counterfeited this, and they sent 25 in, they'd throw those in the bin too.
Oh,
so sometimes if you wanted your product returned, or also there's elements of Amazon where you can basically just use their fulfillment. Right. Like, for example, my books, if I wanted to print those with a different publisher, which I do, and then send them to Amazon and sell them, and if I want them back or I want to distribute them, I can use Amazon to do that, which can be really effective from a supply chain perspective.
Sure.
But if someone counterfeited my book and then I wanted to send them back or send them to people, they would, at one point, were just commingling everything.
Oh, man.
So people were sending in bunk stuff, and they'd be like, hey, I need my inventory back or whatever, and then they'd get it back, and they're like, what is this?
Oh, man.
So like you just talk about, I mean, every business at every size has problems dealing with that kind of stuff, obviously fulfillment. So, and let's finish with that. So if I buy a phone on Swappa, is it now up to the sell? You guys help, obviously you probably help me print a shipping label and stuff like that, but is it up to the seller to get that in a box and send it off the same way as other stuff?
And we've got copious amounts of documentation and stuff to, advise on how to make that easier. But the seller would then have to go just package it up and ship it off.
So someone was in here, it was, I think it was Joe Pippin from the Fishing Caddy. Wait, no, it wasn't. It was Andrew Dowis from Pro Athlete. They sell justbats.com.
Oh, okay.
And they had done
what do they sell?
Just bats.
Oh, okay.
Like $50 million worth of baseball bats a year.
Wow.
Like massive, and they're here in Kansas City too. By the way, in your hometown, there's probably great stuff going on around you didn't even know about. Like, Ben, I just met you in person today for the first time. And this is an example of like, and I don't want to say you're under the radar because you guys are doing $90 million in marketplace transactions, but look around your own backyard, people, because there are interesting people and businesses doing cool, interesting, innovative, and in some cases, like you guys have been around for a while.
Yeah. I need to get more plugged in. I've been saying that for years, and
well,
this is part of an attempt to do that.
You're busy selling $90 million worth of stuff. No one can really fault you for that, but it's difficult. It's like, because, anytime you choose to do one thing, you're choosing not to do something else. But right. Anyway, back to what Andrew was saying is they did a thing where you could trade in your old baseball bat.
Okay.
Then they realized the problem. No one just has a box that inherently fits a baseball bat.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is shipping, like maybe if you had like a really long poster tube or one of those triangle things, but who has that?
Nobody.
And now you need to put a bat in something. So they were getting boxes that were like, like a TV box or something, which made it really, really, really expensive to ship. And that was kind of the failure story that he shared. He's like, yeah, we realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to work out.
We tried doing shipping kits to where for MacBooks, it was the first one we did it with. It was actually kind of successful in that we found like the perfect size box, exactly the perfect packing materials on it, because you can't just go to the store and buy that size box.
Hey, I need it. And
that's
just
my point. Right
yeah.
amount of bubble wrap or cushion. And so we went through and did this and found basically what worked for all the different sizes of MacBooks and put it together in a shipping kit. We could buy all the stuff in bulk, and then you could buy it cheap, and we would ship you the box that you would then ship it. But even shipping an empty box,
it's expensive.
It cost as
it costs about as much as shipping a full one.
Yeah, and so we would sell these at a loss though. But MacBook shipping kit, and they were very popular. People would like, because it solved this exact problem, but it just wasn't.
Well, and that's why franchises like the UPS store and stuff like that are actually doing well, and they're listed amongst top franchise units, because a lot of places like Swappa or other places that have to ship anything, you look at like those are the kind of places where you go to return your cable box now. Because that you can drop it off and they'll pack it up and ship it back, because like the cable companies don't have offices everywhere, the ability to take that stuff in. So there's a lot of different stuff. All right, so are you guys on the social medias?
We are.
On all of them? Close.
Most of them,
yeah, check it out. I'm assuming that if you search Swappa,
you'll find it.
And we will be following Swappa on the @Startup Hustle Podcast Instagram account, so you can find it there if you want to make it quick and easy. If you want to check out what Matt Watson and I do when we're not recording podcasts, you can go to fullscale.io. We help you build a team of experts that will help you build your hopes and dreams online. I like to keep it that vague. So anyway, Ben, thank you so much for coming by. Anything else to say?
No, I appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate you coming by, and we're going to follow up again on online marketplaces. I love this subject. Whether you are selling a service, a product, facilitating transactions, technically Tinder is an online marketplace.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, it is. It is. So you got to look at marketplace dynamics. You got to figure out how you're going to populate it. You got to figure out how you're going to ensure the safety and quality of your transactions, and how you're going to make your buyer and seller experience. And they're both important, because if the sellers don't have stuff to sell in your marketplace, goodbye. So, and speaking of goodbye, we'll see you next time.